Fellow
The ultimatum
commanders,
commander
the
Sarah
situation on
Chen
the
stood in
Orion
the
front
observation
demands our
deck of
immediate
Luna
attention
Station,
and decisive
watching
action.
Earth rotate
We are
slowly
facing
beneath her
an
feet.
unprecedented challenge.
The blue marble that had birthed humanity looked peaceful from this distance, but Sarah knew better. She had just finished reading the transmission from the Galactic Council for the 5th time, and each reading made her angrier than the last. The message was simple and insulting. Humanity had 40 standard galactic days to abandon their colonies in the Proxima system, the Wolf 359 settlements, and the thriving communities on Barnard's Star. No negotiation. No compensation. Just leave, or face the consequences. The Galactic Council consisted of 5 ancient species who had ruled the local arm of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. The Crythians were energy beings who lived inside crystalline shells and considered physical bodies to be primitive. The Morvacs had evolved from aquatic creatures and controlled most of the galaxy's water worlds, with their advanced biotechnology. The Zalathi were warriors who had not lost a battle in 2 millennia, their combat doctrine based on honor and superior firepower. The Quantari manipulated gravity itself, bending space around their massive ships. The eldest were the Etherians, beings of pure thought who claimed to have transcended physical existence entirely. All 5 species looked at humanity and saw nothing but hairless apes who had barely learned to leave their home world. They saw primitive rockets and basic fusion drives where they possessed antimatter engines and quantum tunneling technology. They observed human weapons that still used chemical propulsion and kinetic energy, while their own arsenals contained singularity bombs and dimensional disruptors. To them, humanity was a child playing with sticks while adults carried plasma rifles. Sarah activated her secure communications link and connected with General Marcus Thompson at Earth Defense Command. Marcus was an old soldier who had fought in the Mars Independence War 20 years ago. He understood warfare in a way that these ancient aliens never could. While the Galactic Council fought with rules and protocols established over millennia, humanity had learned to fight dirty in the streets and trenches of 100 different conflicts. Marcus had been preparing for this moment since first contact 3 years ago. The general's weathered face appeared on Sarah's screen, and she could see the excitement burning in his eyes despite his calm expression. He had been overseeing Project Nemesis for the past 2 years, a classified program that had consumed 40% of Earth's military budget. The project had developed weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter the technological superiority of potential alien threats. Every human settlement had been equipped with hidden defensive systems. Every civilian ship carried military-grade equipment disguised as mining tools or agricultural machinery. Every colonist had undergone basic combat training as part of their settlement orientation. Meanwhile, on the colony world of Proxima Prime, Director Maria Vasquez walked through the main settlement watching children play in the artificial parks. 50,000 humans called this world home. They had spent 8 years terraforming the hostile environment into something that could support human life. Families had invested their entire savings into the journey here, seeking a new beginning among the stars. The schools were full of children who had never known Earth, who considered Proxima Prime their birth world. The hospitals had delivery wards where the first generation of truly interstellar humans had been born. Maria had received the evacuation demand that morning and had immediately called a colony council meeting. The discussion had been short and unanimous. Not one single colonist was willing to abandon what they had built. They would rather die defending their homes than live as refugees at the mercy of alien overlords. The same message had come from Wolf 359 and Barnard's Star. 300,000 humans across 3 systems had made the same choice. They would fight. Back on Earth, President James Harrison convened an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every nation on Earth and every off-world settlement participated via quantum communication links. The debate lasted less than an hour. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting against oppression and tyranny. They had overthrown kings and emperors, defeated fascists and dictators, and would not now bow to alien bureaucrats who thought they could simply take what humans had earned with blood and sweat. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not abandon its colonies. More importantly, Earth would teach the Galactic Council what happened when someone threatened human children. The President authorized the immediate activation of all military assets and gave General Thompson complete authority to execute Project Nemesis. The plan that had been theoretical for 2 years was about to become terrifyingly real. Professor David Kim had spent the last 3 years studying every piece of information about the Galactic Council that humanity had acquired. He had analyzed their psychology, their military doctrine, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. The Council species had not fought a serious war in over 300 years. Their battles were ceremonial affairs with strict rules of engagement. They announced their attacks in advance, limited civilian casualties, and accepted surrender with honor. They had forgotten what total war looked like. The Council's military technology was incredibly advanced but also incredibly predictable. Their shields operated on specific frequencies that never changed because no one had successfully challenged them in centuries. Their weapons were devastating but required long charging cycles because they expected enemies to fight in organized formations. Their communication systems were quantum encrypted but relied on central nodes that had never needed serious protection. They were giants made of glass, powerful but brittle. Captain Jessica Park commanded one of Earth's new Shadow-class vessels, ships that appeared on sensors as simple cargo haulers or mining vessels. In reality, they were humanity's most advanced warships, equipped with stealth technology that made them nearly invisible, and weapons designed to exploit every weakness Professor Kim had identified. Her ship, the Silent Fury, had been positioned in the Proxima system for 6 months, pretending to be a mining vessel while actually laying a network of hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. When the Council fleet arrived, they would find what appeared to be a panic-stricken evacuation in progress. Civilian ships would be fleeing in disorder while a small military force tried desperately to organize a defense. The Council would position their fleet in standard formation, confident in their superiority. They would never suspect that every fleeing civilian ship was armed, every defensive position was a trap, and every human in the system was ready to fight. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Hayes had spent months training colonial militias in guerrilla warfare tactics. The colonists had learned to fight in ways that would horrify the honor-bound Council warriors. They had studied ambush tactics, improvised explosives, psychological warfare, and most importantly, they had learned to show no mercy to those who threatened their families. The colonies had been transformed into fortresses disguised as peaceful settlements. Underground bunkers connected every building. Hidden weapons caches were scattered throughout the settlements. Even the children knew where the emergency shelters were and had practiced evacuation drills until they could reach safety in under 60 seconds. As the 40-day deadline approached, humanity made its final preparations. The Council had made a fatal error in giving humans time to prepare. They assumed that primitive humans would spend that time panicking or begging for mercy. Instead, humanity had used every second to perfect their trap. Ships were positioned, weapons were armed, and 300,000 colonists prepared to show the galaxy what happened when someone tried to take their homes. The psychological preparation was just as important as the military planning. General Thompson had ensured that every human understood what they were fighting for. This was not about territory or resources or political ideology. This was about the right of human children to grow up free, the right of families to build homes among the stars, and the right of humanity to exist as equals in the galaxy rather than servants. Every human in the colonies had made peace with the possibility of death and had decided that dying free was better than living as slaves. On day 39, the final pieces moved into position. Earth's hidden fleet powered down all non-essential systems and drifted dark and silent into ambush positions. The weapons platforms in the asteroid belts went into standby mode. Invisible to all but the most sophisticated sensors, the colonies broadcast desperate messages begging for more time, pleading for mercy, doing everything possible to convince the Council that humanity was weak and frightened. Sarah Chen took her position in the command center of Luna Station, which would coordinate the defense of all 3 colony systems. She looked at the countdown timer showing less than 24 hours until the Council's deadline. Around her, hundreds of officers and technicians prepared for what would either be humanity's greatest victory or its final stand. The trap was set. The bait was placed. Now all they had to do was wait for the Galactic Council to walk into it. The message that went out to every human ship, station, and settlement was simple and stirring. Admiral Chen herself had written it. Today the galaxy thinks we are primitive. Tomorrow they will know we are dangerous. Stand ready. 300,000 voices across 3 star systems responded with humanity's ancient battle cry, one that had echoed across countless battlefields throughout history: we will not yield. The Reckoning, the Galactic Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at exactly the appointed time, their ships appearing in perfect formation like a divine judgment, descending upon the primitive humans. Supreme Commander Zix Theta of the Zalathi stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Infinite Glory, and surveyed the human colonies with what passed for satisfaction among his species. His forearms moved in the ritual gesture of anticipated victory as he observed the chaos below. Human ships scattered in every direction like frightened animals. Distress signals flooded the communication channels. It was exactly as the Council had predicted. The Council had sent 120 vessels to deal with the human problem. It was more than enough to destroy 3 primitive colonies. But the Council wanted to make a statement. Young species needed to learn their place in the galactic hierarchy, and humanity would serve as an example to others who might think to challenge the established order. Zix Theta had brought representatives from all 5 Council species to witness humanity's humiliation. They would see these upstart apes bow before superior beings and accept their fate as subjects of the greater galactic civilization. Subcommander Krella of the Morvax reported that the human military forces appeared to be attempting some kind of defensive formation around their colonies. Her bioluminescent skin flickered with amusement at their pathetic efforts. 23 human vessels against the might of the Council fleet. Their largest ship was barely a quarter the size of a Council destroyer. Their weapons were primitive projectile launchers and basic laser systems that could not even scratch Council shields. She almost felt sorry for them, but orders were orders. The Etherian observer, a being called Whisper of Stars, floated through the bridge in its containment field and projected thoughts of disdain. These humans still thought with chemical reactions in organic brains. They could not even communicate telepathically. How could such limited creatures dare to claim worlds that rightfully belonged to more evolved species? The observer had voted for immediate extermination rather than evacuation, but the Council had chosen to show mercy. 30 days to leave was more than these primitives deserved. Quantum Manipulator First Class Theta. 9 of the Quantari examined the human colonies through gravitational sensors and found nothing unexpected. The settlements were built with basic materials using primitive construction techniques. Their power sources were simple fusion reactors that leaked radiation like broken toys. Their defensive shields, such as they were, could barely stop micrometeorites. The Quantari's gravity weapons could crush these colonies into dust without even trying. This would be over in minutes. The Krythian tactical analyst designated Pattern Singer reviewed the battle plans one final time through its crystalline matrix. The Council fleet would divide into 3 groups, each one targeting a specific colony world. They would begin with a demonstration bombardment to break human morale, then accept the inevitable surrender. If the humans continued to resist, the colonies would be destroyed from orbit, with minimal Council casualties. The entire operation should take less than 1 standard galactic hour. Pattern Singer had calculated a 99.7% probability of complete success with 0 Council losses. Commander Sarah Chen watched the Council fleet divide exactly as Professor Kim had predicted they would. The aliens were following their standard tactical doctrine without the slightest variation. They positioned their capital ships for maximum psychological impact, while keeping their support vessels in safe positions. Their shields were configured for protection against energy weapons and missiles. They had not even bothered to scan for hidden threats because they could not imagine that primitive humans could hide anything from their advanced sensors. The moment had come. Sarah transmitted a single word to all human forces: execute. What happened next would be remembered throughout galactic history as the moment everything changed. The fleeing civilian ship suddenly reversed course and revealed weapon systems that should not have existed on mining vessels. The scattered military vessels that had seemed so disorganized snapped into perfect attack formation with a precision that spoke of months of planning. But most shocking of all, space itself seemed to come alive with threats as hundreds of hidden weapons platforms activated simultaneously. Captain Jessica Park brought the silent Fury out of stealth mode directly beneath the Infinite Glory. Her ship had been drifting powerless for 6 days, invisible to Council sensors waiting for this exact moment. The first indication Zix Theta had that something was wrong was when kinetic railgun rounds began impacting his flagship's unprotected ventral shields. The projectiles were simple tungsten rods accelerated to 20% of light speed, but they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The Supreme Commander's shields, configured for energy weapons, provided almost no protection against pure kinetic impact. The psychological warfare component of the attack began immediately. Instead of the disciplined military communications the Council expected, human forces filled every channel with recordings of crying children, screaming mothers, and desperate pleas for mercy, all taken from Earth's historical archives. Then the recording suddenly cut to silence before being replaced by a single voice, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "You threatened our children. Now you will learn why humanity survived while countless civilizations fell." Lieutenant Colonel Hayes activated the colony defense networks, and the Council ground forces preparing to land found themselves facing weapons they had never imagined. The humans had not built traditional defensive emplacements. Instead, they had turned entire mountains into weapon systems. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids had been weaponized into continent-scorching beam weapons. Agricultural drones had been reprogrammed into suicide bombers. Even the colonial weather control systems had been turned into weapons, generating electromagnetic pulses that disabled Council dropships. The horror for the Council forces was not just the unexpected resistance, but the nature of it. Humans did not fight with honor or follow any rules of engagement. When Council Marines landed expecting to face military forces, they found themselves attacked by civilians, including children who threw improvised explosives before disappearing into underground tunnels. The colonies had been turned into death traps where every building could explode, every street could collapse into a pit, and every human could be a combatant. General Thompson had specifically designed the defense to attack the psychological weaknesses of each Council species. The Crithians, beings of living energy, found themselves facing weapons that disrupted their crystalline matrices with harmonic frequencies that caused excruciating pain. The Morvacs, dependent on moisture, discovered that humans had developed desiccant weapons that could dehydrate them in seconds. The Zalathi, proud warriors who valued honorable combat, were forced to fight enemies who attacked from shadows and showed no mercy to those who surrendered. The Quantari, masters of gravity, discovered that humans had learned to use their own weapons against them. Earth scientists had developed gravity pulse generators that created chaotic gravitational fields, causing Quantari ships to tear themselves apart with their own mass manipulation technology. The Etherians, beings of pure thought, found themselves under assault by human cyber warfare specialists who had learned to translate computer viruses into psychic attacks that invaded their consciousness like poisonous thoughts. Subcommander Krella watched her bioship writhe in agony as human chemical weapons ate through its living hull. The weapons were not sophisticated by galactic standards, but they were specifically designed to target Morvac biotechnology. Her crew screamed as parasitic nanobots invaded their bodies through their moisture-permeable skin. She tried to call for help, but the communication channels were flooded with human psychological warfare broadcasts that made coordination impossible. The battle turned into a massacre, but not the one the Council had expected. Within 30 minutes, 40 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans showed no interest in accepting surrender or taking prisoners. When Council crews abandoned their dying ships in escape pods, human fighters hunted them down with cold efficiency. The message was clear. Those who threatened human families would receive no mercy, no quarter, and no escape. Whisper of Stars attempted to flee back to hyperspace, but discovered that the humans had deployed gravitational mines throughout the system that made faster-than-light travel impossible. The Etherian had never experienced fear in its 1,000 years of existence, but now it knew terror as human cyber attacks invaded its consciousness with images of every war humanity had ever fought, every atrocity they had committed against each other, every moment of savage brutality that had shaped their species. The Etherian realized with growing horror that the Council had not faced a primitive species. They had awakened something far more dangerous. A species that had evolved through constant warfare and had learned to weaponize everything, including fear itself. Supreme Commander Zixitheta watched his fleet burn and realized the magnitude of the Council's mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology and found them wanting, but technology was just a tool. What made a species dangerous was not their weapons, but their willingness to use them without restraint. The Council had forgotten what total war looked like because they had been at peace for so long. Humanity had never known peace. Every human generation had fought for survival. War was not their last resort. It was their natural state. The final blow came when General Thompson revealed humanity's true capabilities. The colonies had been bait, designed to draw the Council fleet into a trap. Earth's real military had been hidden in deep space, dark sites invisible to all sensors. Now they emerged, 300 warships equipped with technology reverse-engineered from captured Council vessels and improved with human military doctrine. These ships did not fight with honor or follow protocols. They fought to win, completely and utterly, regardless of the cost. Sarah Chen opened a channel to the surviving Council ships. Her voice was calm and cold as she delivered humanity's terms. The Council would immediately recognize human sovereignty over all claimed territories. They would pay reparations for the emotional trauma caused to human colonists. They would provide technology transfers to ensure humanity could defend itself against future threats. And most importantly, they would spread the word throughout the galaxy that humanity was not to be threatened, not to be challenged, and never to be underestimated again. The alternative, Sarah explained with perfect clarity, was complete annihilation. Humanity had already dispatched strike forces to the Council homeworlds. These forces carried weapons that would make what happened here look merciful by comparison. Biological weapons designed to target specific alien physiologies. Computer viruses that would destroy thousand-year-old databases. Kinetic bombardment systems that would turn cities into craters. The Council had 48 hours to accept humanity's terms or face the complete destruction of their civilizations. Pattern Singer performed rapid calculations and reached a terrible conclusion. The humans were not bluffing. Everything about this attack had been planned for years. They had studied the Council, learned their weaknesses, and prepared countermeasures for every possible response. The primitive apes the Council had dismissed as barely sapient had outplanned, outmaneuvered, and outfought the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The probability of Council victory had dropped from 99.7% to 0%. The surrender came 36 hours later. The Galactic Council, which had ruled the local arm of the galaxy for 10 millennia, capitulated completely to a species that had only achieved faster-than-light travel a decade ago. The terms were broadcast to every civilized world, along with footage of the battle that showed the complete destruction of the Council fleet. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity had arrived and they would not be anyone's subjects. In the aftermath, as human salvage crews picked through the wreckage of Council ships, General Thompson made one final broadcast to the galaxy. He spoke not with pride or arrogance, but with simple truth. Humanity offers friendship to all who approach us in peace. We will trade fairly, negotiate honestly, and honor our agreements. But to those who would threaten us, who would take what we have earned, who would harm our children or destroy our homes, know this. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues, world wars, and nuclear fire. We learned to kill before we learned to speak. War is written in our DNA, encoded in our bones, and etched into our souls. We tried to leave it behind when we reached for the stars, but you have reminded us who we are. We are humanity. We are dangerous, and we are done being underestimated. The galaxy would never be the same again. The age of Council dominance had ended in fire and blood. The age of humanity had begun with a lesson that would echo through history. Never threaten human families, for humans would burn the stars themselves to protect what they loved.